Shall we start, ma'am?
Yes, please, Siddhantika. Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first virtual webinar in the series of Career Perspectives for the Law Students organized by Hoot Welfare Society. I'm your host and moderator for today's session, Siddhantika Vats, student editor at Hoot Welfare Society. As an organization, we have always worked towards the development and nourishment of students and society in different perspectives. As a helping group, we have worked towards changing the status of the needy, not just with regards to the monetary concerns, but with regards to their overall development. We aim at developing and helping, not to make them dependent, but to evolve them for a better future and a better lifestyle. As our president, Mr. Abhinav Srivastava, has always motivated the team to work in a jointly and in diverse field with a focused aim of helping students and the society. And today, we are here due to his continuous motivation and guidance. Judiciary is a dream job for every law student. And from the very first day of the joining law school, they dream of having a career in judicial services. This is the most prestigious profession which requires a lot of preparation and guidance. With this idea in our mind, we based our first webinar on the theme Career in Judicial Services, Prospectus and Opportunities, discussions on preparation strategy, judgment writing, and framing of charges, etc. And for the guidance, we have with us Ms. Aishwarya Diwan, Chhattisgarh State Judicial Service Examination 2019 qualifier with a rank of 3. Ma'am is an alumnus of Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur from the batch of 2012 to 2017. And after her graduation, Ma'am has worked as a legal research assistant in the Law and Legislative Affairs Department, Chhattisgarh Government, and as a legal advisor at Chhattisgarh State Biodiversity Board. She has also worked as an associate at Little and Company, Mumbai. With this brief description, on behalf of whole team, I would like to extend my heartiest welcome to ma'am to join us and guide us on the future with her valuable knowledge and experience. Our team has tried to reach every participant from far-reach states and different union territories to spread the knowledge. We have received a handful of registration of over 800 attendees and a number of queries related to it too. All the questions were so related to the career. So we are here with a handful of questions that will be asked from ma'am for her guidance and motivation. But before starting the questions, I request every attendees, please do not switch on your microphones or cameras, and any queries can be given in the chat box or comment section below that will be taken at the end of the session. In the end of the session or during midway of the session, a feedback form will also be circulated in the chat box, which need to be filled by every attendee here, and failure of which will result in non-availability of certificate. Now, from now the question sets, I would like to invite ma'am to answer some of our important questions. Ma'am, at first, we would like to know how you decided to join the law college and take judicial services as your career option.
First of all, thank you very much, Siddhantika, and thank you, Hoot Welfare Society, for inviting me over to this platform. And thank you, everyone, for participating in such a huge number. I didn't know that these webinars can be of such craze. So, yeah. Coming to your question, to be very honest, joining a law school or graduating in law was never in my mind. In fact, none of my parents, none of anyone we have ever thought that I'll be graduating in law. I took maths in my plus two, and the only thing was that I don't want to go for engineering. Except apart from that, I'll do anything. Thankfully, fortunately, I did 1 month crash course, and fortunately, thankfully, I got into Hidayatullah National Law University, and it's one of the premier institution of law. So I just joined it without thinking anything more on the subject or more on the field. But by the end of 5 years, I can very proudly and very confidently say that I made a right decision. It was not decision sort of, but it happened to be very correct for me. I have thoroughly enjoyed my 5 years of law school, and this is why actually law like the subject, and it's as per my temperament with the entire legal field, and I haven't as such regretted about that particular decision. So, and coming to the second part of the question, Siddhantika, why judiciary? My father is in the government service himself, and since childhood, I have seen the power which he has, the responsibility which he has. So, you can say it was my childhood dream of being a part of public service. Now, my interest for law, coupled with this fact that I want to be public service, I this particular combination, this derived me towards joining the judicial service. I thought that this would be the best suited option for me.
Okay, so mean every science student, when they don't want to take engineering, law is a good option for them, as a having an interest in a legal services and legal field too.
Yes, you can
Ma'am,
say that. Yeah.
um, but according to you, what is the ideal time to start the preparations, and what was your strategy for the different levels? What was the particular routine, or did you adopted any particular type of routine during the preparations, and how did you manage to keep yourself motivated and concentrated during the preparation stages?
A lot of questions in one question, Siddhantika. But yes, so remind me if I forget any of your questions, answering any one of them. So first part being that as such, there's no time strategy which we can say. There's no ideal time for anything. I mean, it depends on person to person, factors to factors. For example, there are a lot of people whom I have in my contact who have worked for 2 to 3 years in different law firms, and after that, they have decided that they want to pursue judiciary. And most of the times, what happens is that which is one of the important factor, according to me, is that unlike UPSC, which happens every year, judiciary exams are not something which happens every year. For example, in the state of Chhattisgarh, as you have mentioned in my introduction part, 2017 I graduated. However, I have to wait for complete 2 years. That is to wait for the notification. So in 2019, the notification came out for the vacancies for the judiciary service. Now, one has to keep in mind that this is conducted by states, which can differ from state to state. The timing has to be kept in mind, which is a very important factor over here. And the ideal time can be whenever you feel right that you want to go for this particular year. I would say that a year of preparation is more than enough for cracking. Not more than enough. It depends on person to person, but a minimum of a year is enough to prepare for judicial services. And again, repeating, it differs from state to state, because in the state of Chhattisgarh, you can see we have to wait for 2 years to get the notification and to appear for the exam. Another part, that is there any routine or is there any strategy? Again, that depends on person to person. For example, if we talk about myself, till 5 years of till fifth year of my law college, I used to be a night person. I used to study at night. But during exams, I don't know what happened for judiciary. I suddenly became a morning person. I used to wake up early in the morning and would give myself a proper 3 to 4 hours for judiciary preparation. That help. I don't know why that happened, because it can change from on. It can change from person to person or on a daily basis. Something. Another thing is that how to go about the strategy of the exams. Now, it's a very detailed answer, and I would like to give a huge detail on this. There are 3 stages. We all know about this. There's prelims, there's mains, then there's interview. Now, the first and the foremost thing is that you have to get hold of the syllabus of the exam. You have to have the amended latest copy of the barracks of the syllabus of the law subjects which are there in your syllabus. and you should have few basic books for the subjects. Basic books in the sense you don't have to have a huge compendium for constitution or something. A basic book for, let's say, constitution, for evidence act, for contracts would do so. The second part is that once you have the latest copy of the amendments, you should divide your subjects into three categories. Like I divided my subjects into three categories. The major acts, which would include CPC, CRPC, Constitution, IPC. Then comes minor acts, for example, local state acts, the Excise Act, Rent Control Act, Court Fees Act, etc. can be put into the category of minor acts. Then comes medium category acts, which can be Evidence Act, TPA, contracts, all these things. And accordingly, you should go ahead with these subjects. Now, the important part is that when we say that timetables don't work, or a lot of people say I cannot follow timetable, I would rather say it is very wrong to say that, because in fact, I myself would have said a lot of times that I am a person who cannot follow timetable. But I can proudly say that during this judiciary preparation time, I actually followed timetable which I had set. Don't set timetable on a monthly basis if you cannot, but I used to set a weekly timetable in which I used to divide all my acts in a week time, and I would focus on those in a week time, and I would focus them on accordingly. What you can do is, one strategy which actually helped me on this is that I would divide my subjects in such a way that in a week I'm able to cover almost all the acts in one go. This would apply on minor acts and medium acts, because major acts like CPC, CRPC, these are something which takes a lot of time. So you can keep this aside, but for medium and minor acts, you should try to cover it in a week time, so that every week you're revising these subjects. Now, one thing is it's very important to know here is that you have to memorize and understand each and every sections. There are lots of sections, lots and lots of sections, which you have to understand and learn and memorize these sections. For an average student like me, I don't think that in one go, in one time only, we are able to understand and recall every act and every section. So you have to keep revising it. So this weekly timetable of yours, that is in every week, you are getting to revise and study those acts. It will help you to memorize and register these sections in your mind. So this is one important strategy which I can tell, and this I actually followed and it actually helped me. One more thing, revision is very, very, very important. Keep revising sections. In one go, I'm again repeating, in one go, for one time or two times, you cannot actually remember, or you cannot remember any section, any act. It takes a lot of time. There are exceptions, but it takes a lot of time. So keep revising them. And once you have revised it for, let's say, twice, thrice, or four times, you will see that automatically you will some or the other way start recalling those sections. And another important point is that solve as many objectives as you can. I mean, objectives are very important. So once you have solved any act, once you have studied any act, make sure that you solve the objectives. Now, there are many benefits of these objectives. One is that you get to understand the pattern of the questions which can come from those acts. And another thing is that while solving objectives also, you will find, or you realize that these objectives also help you to register any section or any theory or something. So objectives are actually very important. Coming to the next stage, that is mains. Again, the syllabus for mains varies from state to state. For example, in Madhya Pradesh, there is judgment writing, there is translation, and there is case writing, that is long answer type questions which they ask. In Chhattisgarh, there is only judgment writing and translation part. So for that also, the important part again is that writing practice, everyone does that. But the point which we students fail to realize is that timing is equally very important. So when you're doing your writing practice for these judgments, for these translations, make sure that you keep a watch with you and you actually time your writing skills. Another thing is that your writing there are a lot of queries that writing should be excellent, it should be very beautiful. I don't go by that. Your writing should be clear, it should be legible, and you should be able to complete your paper in time. Make sure that you do not leave your mains paper half fail, then you do not leave any questions. Therefore, you write clearly and you finish your paper in time. So this is very important part for the mains exam. Then there comes the interview part, in which now interview can be all about the confidence and the positivity which you take along with you. GK and legal developments are equally very important for the interview part. So yeah.
Ma'am, like you have mentioned that we should practice more and more for the memorizing of the provisions, the sections that will help us in our examinations. Ma'am, what are the types and what are the books that you recommend that can make us uh, memorize these things in an easier way? And what is your plan to cover such a vast syllabus? Because many a times there are situations when we confuse between the sections and the provisions of different acts. So what is your strategy on this?
Yes, so as I had mentioned in just previously, revision is very important. Number one, and second, objective solving is equally very important. So through these objectives, you are able to you are able to understand the provisions more clearly. Because I myself faced this particular issue. I used once I had read all the acts and everything, but and I made a mistake sort of over here. I didn't used to solve objectives. In last 2 to 3 months, when I started solving objectives, I realized that there are a lot of provisions which I'm getting confused or I'm missing, or there were a lot of provisions which I was not reading properly so as to solve the questions which would arise from those provisions. Now, after solving objectives, your head will clear out of these doubts. You will start to understand the difference between sections, because there are, for example, there's this book by M.A. Rashid. It's very good book for objectives. It's very big book, and there are tons of questions on each and every subject. So from each section itself, they'll ask you 2 to 3 objectives from one section itself. So this will help you to further clear out your understanding on any paragraph or any law issue and everything. Another part is that no book as such is required. I mean, the most important tool is that your barracks. Apart from the barracks, you can use basic books which I had mentioned. For example, Takwani we can use, or Avatar for contracts you can use. These books can help you, but be very much sure that your barracks and the objective book, any objective book, is very important. Apart from that, you can use any other book which you want. Sorry, did I mention the judgment writing part over here? Did I forget?
No. Yes, ma'am. I was just about to ask the same thing. That what is the strategy to prepare for the long answers such as case writing and judgment writings? And especially one more thing, what is the strategy for preparing general knowledge paper? Because often it happens that general knowledge is asked from recent times, and we have been preparing for a long period, and that general knowledge is relevant, or what is the take on that?
Yes, yes. So for coming to the first part, that is long judgment writing and case laws, everything. I used to, during my mains exam, I gave in our Chhattisgarh judiciary, the main syllabus is judgment writing and translation part. So what I used to do is that I used to write one civil judgment and one criminal judgment every day. And I would focus a lot on the translation part, because translation part in Chhattisgarh judiciary is our more scoring subject over here. For other states like MP, where the questions also come from the legal subjects, the only thing is that you have to keep writing everything. You keep practicing, you keep making notes and everything for that. And as I mentioned, timing is very important, because most of the times we forget, we keep on writing and writing, and we forget that we have to attempt a lot of questions in that particular scenario. So make sure that your answers are in such a manner, they are short, but at the same time, they're covering all the important topics, and they are done in a timely manner. During exams, we see that there's another, when we are actually sitting for the exam, it's not the only exam which we are giving, there's also another burden of we are very scared, there's a pressure over us. So make sure that your timing is in such a manner that you are incorporating all those fears and at the same time completing the paper also. For the general knowledge part, This is important for both for interview also and for mains also, because in Madhya Pradesh there is a 10 or 20 marks questions from general knowledge which comes. So for the general knowledge part, you have to be very much aware of the state legal affairs, because the respective state's legal affair. I believe that in every state there are small books which are provided for the GK part. You can go to any bookshop, you can find static GK, the history of the state, the important rivers, the important buildings of the state, etc. It has to be kept in mind. Another thing is that continuous and regular newspaper study is also important, because we ultimately are law students and we should be aware of the legal developments around us. So this will not only be necessary for judiciary, but for any profession in whichever you are. So keep a continuous and regular study of newspapers. This will help you for everyday life in a way. And this is the current legal affairs which we can cover, the static legal affair, that is the state developments which we can see. Another part is that basic legal questions which can arise. So for this, you can simply Google something like you can Google, or there can be books available for that. So GK is not something which you can cover in a month or in a day or a two. It's very vast. So for GK, I would rather say that a continuous 15 minutes or 10 minutes of GK is a continuous, that should be done continuously. 15 or 10 minutes of continuous study of GK will be more than enough. So, yeah.
Ma'am, like you said that as a law student, we should be aware about all the legal developments. And for this, and even for our practice also, our law colleges always focuses on internships. Now, what is your idea about the competitions for internships and the type of internships we should do? And is the internship a mandatory thing for securing a position at judicial services?
No. So internships vary from the mandatory requirement of internship, vary from college to colleges. For example, in our college, internships were not mandatory. But I would rather say that we are in such a field where practical aspect is required in a huge manner. So internships help you to gain first-hand experience in each and every manner. In few colleges, internships are mandatory, but in some colleges, it's completely optional. As you will gain experience in internships, so it will rather help you understand your area of interest. Through these internships, we can rather understand where our interest lies. I was lucky enough that I did a lot of internships in vast places. I have interned in district court, I have interned in Supreme Court. I also got an opportunity to intern in both big law firms and mid-range law firms. So in a way, I had my experience working in every sector where a law student can go. And accordingly, it helps you to further uh, understand your area of interest. Otherwise, and coming to the last part of your question, whether internships are useful for getting clearing judiciary, it's no. The answer is big no. Uh, the only thing which is required for you to crack judiciary is that you should be able to crack prelims, then mains, and you should be able to clear interview. During interview, a lot of questions are there that people ask the bench ask you about your previous experience and if you have worked anywhere. The only answer to that is that you should be able to satisfy the bench properly. If you have worked anywhere, you should be able to understand and you should be well aware of the area of work which you have done, and you have taken a gap year. You should be able to satisfy the board as to what you did during your gap year. So otherwise, I don't think internships can be very much useful in clearing the judiciary exam. But internships are important for your experience.
Ma'am, like you said that internships can help us discover our area of interest. Like in the same manner, the honors subject that we take during our law schools that are also dependent upon the area of interest we have. So what do you think, what is the role of honors subject in the judicial services?
Yes, so honors also, one thing which I missed is that once you enter into law school, not everyone is not every person knows as to what he wants to do after 5 years of law college. It's a complete 5 year which you given in a law college, and in those 5 years, every person changes, the ideas develop, what he would have thought in first year changes, what he would have to do in after 5 years. Similar is the case with the honor subject. If you are dedicated, if you are determined that you do want to go for judiciary, then I would say with complete honesty that you should opt for subjects which would help you to clear, which are in consonance with the syllabus of judiciary, let's say constitution or any of these parts. But if you have any doubt as to if you will be able to want to go for judiciary, or if you want to go for corporate, accordingly you should choose your honor subject. It ultimately, as you rightly said, it depends on the interest area where your interest lies. And definitely, if you are choosing on a subject which is in your syllabus of which comes in the syllabus of judiciary, that will be of great help, because ultimately it will keep you in touch with the subjects, and you'll be able to further understand properly the nuances and the ideas of those subjects.
Ma'am, like we always, from the first year to our last year, we always go through a lot and we change a lot during our law school. There is not one thing that we are having in first year of law college as our area of interest that will last to our final year of law college. So, ma'am, what do you think? What are the extracurricular activities that you focused upon, or that any law student should focus upon?
It's a very fun part over here, because I personally I personally was a part of almost a lot of extra co-curricular activities. I made sure that I participate in every festival, every moot court organizations, etc. I was volunteer, I was coordinator and everything. Apart from this, I also made sure that I enjoy every part of law school in a way that I did moot courts, I did paper presentations, I participate in parliamentary debates. I'm not saying I aced in any of these. I was just a participant over there, and I actually enjoyed these laws, like these activities over there. For me, it actually helps a person to develop these activities. Am I audible, Siddhantika?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
So, for me, these activities actually actually helps a person to grow, to develop his personality and everything. So I would actually recommend every person to grab every opportunity he or she has, and participate in every like participate in every festival which comes, or every organization which comes, so that he or she keeps on growing for that same thing. Because study, when it comes to preparation for the exam, it will eventually happen. But these time which you get in a law school, these moot courts, these parliamentary debates, etc., won't come again. So just don't skip any of these things. Just grab the opportunity and go for it. And eventually it do help you. It helps you in a lot of manners. So
And you have cleared the judiciary at lower judiciary at a very young stage. And after clearing the lower judiciary at this young age, what is the process of promotion to high courts and supreme courts in one service?
yes. So when it comes to the Supreme Court and High Court, the eligibility criteria are different. Article 124 of Indian Constitution, it talks about the eligibility criteria to become a judge in a Supreme Court. It says that a person has to be a High Court judge for 5 or more years, or a person has to be practicing advocate in a High Court for 10 or more years, or he or she is in the opinion of the president an eminent jurist. Now, this is the eligibility criteria. Now, the process is that a person has to be selected through the collegium system as per the judge's case. Now, this depends on the collegium as to who is going to be selected in the as a Supreme Court judge. Coming to the High Court, there's another Article 217 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the eligibility criteria to become a High Court judge. It says that he or she should be a judicial officer for 10 or more years, or he or she should be and practicing advocate in the High Court for 10 or more years. Ultimately, again, the process is that he or she should be selected by the collegium system eventually. However, you will become a judge through either the two systems, either through bar or through the bench, and the ratio is usually less for the people coming from the bench. That is, it's only usually 30% only. However, there are lots of examples, not tons of examples, but there are two examples which I know personally who have joined lower judiciary and have retired as a Supreme Court judge. One is Justice Fatima Bibi, and another one is Justice Praful Pant, who have started their career as a lower judicial officers and they retired as a Supreme Court judges. And it is also said that the earlier you enter into a lower judiciary, the higher are the chances for you to become a high court judge. So ultimately, it's more of a, it depends on your track record and many other factors. But let's see, the chances are there. I'm not saying it's negative, but chances are there.
So, ma'am, from the selection of bar, that means we need experience in the litigation field. So, how can a student manage themselves financially during this phase?
Financially, in what sense? Can you please repeat your question?
Ma'am, we have to be in the practice field, we have to be in the litigation field. And that means that we have to be continuously working as per our clients and as per the people that we are working with. So how do we manage ourselves during this phase? There can be situations when we are not getting clients and when we are not getting in connect with the people that we can work with.
Siddhantika, it's more of the litigation side. I mean, this is what a lawyer has to do. He has to continuously and consistently work towards his practice area. So the more consistent and more patiently he is working towards that, he or she will be able to manage himself. It's a bit out of the judicial side. It's more of a litigation perspective as to how he's maintaining himself.
Okay, ma'am, as a fresher, you were the fresher during the interview candidate. So is there any prejudice formed against a fresher during interviewing a candidate by the interview panel? Let's assume that the newer is as fresh as just out from the law college. And what is the impact of internships on the panel?
I don't think there will be any negative impact of a fresher on a panel. In my view, a fresher is as competent as an experienced person, as long as he's able to satisfy the panel. There's no hard and fast rule that freshers cannot be selected. In fact, current times, if you see in current times, a lot of freshers are there who are clearing the judiciary exams rather than the experienced people. Experienced in the sense people who have worked for 4 years or 5 years in that manner. Internships also, as I have said earlier, it's not hard and fast rule that internships will help you to score more marks or anything of that sort. Ultimately, it depends entirely on the person as to how he is able to project himself and portray himself in front of the panel. I myself am a fresher. I haven't practiced in any court. I have worked in offices, different offices in as such, but litigation I haven't done as such. So, and honestly, I haven't mentioned the same to the panel. I haven't mentioned in my CV that I had worked earlier in a litigation firm, any of those sorts. Because of the basic reason, I didn't want any questions to come from the litigation part. So it's equal now. It's very important. Another part is this also. When you're preparing your CV for the interview part, you make sure that you write only those questions, only those part in which you're comfortable answering in. If you don't want any question to come from any particular subject, don't mention the same in your CV. Mention your strong subjects and accordingly focus on that. So this will help you to further gain confidence in yourself, and the questions will be something which you would have expected and you are more confident in giving more.
Ma'am, as you have cracked the judiciary by self-study. And nowadays, coaching institutions are also at a very high rise and students are very attracted to the catchphrase they use. What is your take on the importance of coaching institutions and the self-study, and what do you recommend for the students?
I highly recommend self-study. I mean, it's ultimately you and your alone time in which you are able to understand and read the sections and everything. Coaching institutions have a very small role to play in a sense that they will help to make you understand more properly the pattern of the paper, the syllabus, etc. They might give you few important tips and tricks. But in the end, it's only you who have to study and understand and write the paper and clear the exam. So I would rather say that it's not necessary, and it's not, when people say that without coaching one cannot clear exams, I would rather say it's wrong. A person can do self study and clear exams. Coaching institutions, again repeating, they do help you for with important tips and tricks, but it's not very important or very necessary that you have to join a coaching institution to clear an exam. Just focus on the self study and focus on your strategy part as to how you are going to make and how you're going to move, which again repeating differs from person to person. So get your own recipe for this strategy, makes it do whatever happens for you, and you focus on yourself in your alone time in what how you're going to prepare for the same.
Ma'am, many students prepare for judiciary, but it eventually is that everyone doesn't crack judiciary. So what was your backup plan if it was not judiciary?
My backup plan was working in a law firm. So it's important to have backup plan. I'm not saying, but this backup plan should not come in between your dedication and your passion towards clearing any exam. So backup plan is necessary because of the fact that these exams are highly competitive in nature, number one, and it requires huge amount of time. You have to clear prelims, then mains, then interview. And added to this fact, you have to wait for the notification which has to come, the vacancies which have to come. So these are a lot of factors, and these factors are something which are not in your hand. So you have to keep this in your mind that there are a lot of factors which come. You're in your hand, the only thing which you can do is to study for the exam. And rest is all the external factors which will come. Now, backup option will help you. It will give you some sort of satisfaction, but that should not at all, at any cost, come in between your passion and your dedication towards judiciary. It should not be right कि ठीक है ये एग्जाम क्लियर नहीं हुआ तो मेरे पास ये चीज है. No, it should not be like that. It should be like you have to have clear this particular exam and think about the backup option after, in case God forbid the exam isn't clear.
Like you mentioned that you had the legal firms in your mind as a backup plan, that you will join the legal firms. Ma'am, what are the things that a law student should do to grab the position in the legal firms?
These are something, so here internships come into play. Like again, I was lucky enough that all my 5 years I did a lot of internships, and I had one thing in my mind that I want to continuously build my CV. I was sure of this. I didn't want any break in my CV, so I kept working some or the other way, and I kept my CV a bit strong enough through internships, through paper presentations, or any other thing. Now, during internships, if you come across any law firm in which there is opening, you can sit for it, you can clear for the interview and everything. Or there are many of the interviews which keep on happening. The vacancies from these law firms keep on happening. You have to continuously apply on these internships or on these jobs. Now, again, one thing is important that your area of interest should be kept in the mind. A lot of people go for corporate internships. A lot of people go for corporate jobs. A lot of people go for litigation jobs. Accordingly, as per your area of interest, you should work on your CV and accordingly look for the jobs which suits your interest area.
Ma'am, there has been a debate going on, and recently the Bar Council of India has issued a guidelines. Means they wish to issue a guidelines that before sitting for a judicial service examination, 3 years experience would be necessary. So, what is your take on that? Is experience a mandatory thing? Because law graduates often go to internships and they often acquire some of the experience they wish to have. So what is the importance of this experience?
So this is a result of 2002 judgment by All India. There's this case in 2002 whereby the Supreme Court had done away with the minimum requirement, minimum eligibility criteria to become a lower judiciary member. Recently, Bar Council have approached the Supreme Court to revisit the 2002 judgment, and they have said that the lower judiciary judges, they lack the basic qualification to handle the cases, the court matters and everything. And therefore, 3-year minimum practice should be made mandatory to appear for the exam. In my view, which is completely personal, rather than keeping a 3 years minimum eligibility criteria, the area to be focused should be the training part during the probation period. Now, for an example, a lot of UPSC aspirants, the civil servants, they are given high positions, they are given high responsibility, and the minimum requirement is that they should have only graduation degree. But it's very well known that their training part is very important and their training part is very strict. Similarly, we can incorporate the same to our judiciary as well. And another negative aspect of this can be that for 3 years, a person has to manage himself financially. And there will be a huge drawback on the success line or the professional line of the student. He has to graduate and then he has to wait for 3 years to appear for the exam. And that exam again might happen in a year or 2 years. So this will put a huge sort of drawback in any professional line.
Ma'am, at last, we would like to know what are your tips and messages to every law student here attending or in any of the colleges, that what should they do and what should their plan of focus should be?
Few things which I can say is that in today's time, which I know very, very well, is that there's a scope in every field in whichever we choose. There's a scope in litigation, there's a scope in corporate jobs, there is scopes in IPR firms, everywhere. So what matters is that where you are happy and where you find yourself comfortable and suitable. So it depends on your area of interest, and whatever line you choose, you just keep working on that line consistently. You might feel sad, you might feel a lot of anxiety, you might feel depressed, and you might feel a bit of slowed down seeing your friends that are doing well in this particular job or they're doing well in this particular field, etc. But just don't lose heart. You keep working on that and eventually it will pay off very well. It's very cliched line, but yes, it does help in the end. So yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering these questions. Now I request all the attendees that they can put their queries in the chat box, and these queries will be answered by ma'am. Over to you, Ayush, to ask the queries.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Ayush, you are. Yes.
Yes,
Thank you
you
so
are
much.
audible.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Siddhantika. I would now like to take up the questions asked by the participant one by one. Participants, you can put up your questions here, or I can unmute you all.
There are few questions in the chat box. You can take it from there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, Aryan Pujari asks, please spread the light on how to write an answer for mains exams, as it's hard to find any sample answer of mains exams.
There won't be any sample answers because you never know what kind of questions will come in your exam. So what you can do is that you can refer to books and the previous papers, the exam papers of all the states, of the state in which you're appearing. And accordingly, you can prepare answers from the same. And as I have said, keep your answer in such a manner that you're able to incorporate all the important points and at the same time able to complete the answer and the entire paper in given time. Again saying, completing the paper on time is extremely important. So this will be done when you keep on doing writing practice a lot and keeping in mind that you have a watch kept by your side. So yeah.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
another thing is that whenever you're writing any answer, to make under, like whenever you're writing an answer, once you have written an answer, go through that paper again, what you have written. Because when we are reading our answers, we realize that we have missed a lot of points or something which we would have written in a different manner. So make sure all the important ingredients of the same are kept up, put up in your answer. For example, basic answer which we can, which we can say, for example, if someone asks you the definition of theft, so make sure that you write, there are 5 important ingredients in the definition of theft, which is defined in IPC. So make sure that whatever you write, but you write in such a manner that all the 5 ingredients are there in your answer. So once you have done, make sure you, whenever you are reading any barrack, reading any part, you always pinpoint or highlight the important things which you have to put up in your answer so that you don't miss any important things over there.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, someone asked, is it advisable to keep work on a plan B while preparing for the exams?
Sorry, can you please repeat?
Ma'am, someone asked, is it advisable to work on plan B while preparing for the exam? Like, if you don't succeed?
I don't think it's, I won't say advisable, because ultimately clearing these exams requires consistent and full-time preparation strategy. What you can do is that, even what I did was that I used to work, and once the notification came out, I took a break from that particular work. So I did my 100%, even though I was in a continuous touch in those subjects. But once the notification came, I left. I didn't left. I got on a sabbatical period sort of, and I gave complete 4 months to prepare for the prelims part. So this you can do, but studying and preparing for the job is like doing job and studying can help you to an extent so that you can be in touch with the exams. But I would suggest that once the notification comes, or once for the date for the exam comes, you should take a break and focus completely on the exam part. Going for the both, like keeping foot in both the sides, won't be much helpful in my experience.
Ma'am, I had a question, like, what is the time gap that when notification comes and when examination takes place? What is the time duration?
It's completely it completely depends on different states and the situation over there. In our situation, in 2019, the notification for the prelims came. In May 2019, we gave prelims, and soon after the exam, the result was put up in the High Court. The High Court put a stay on the prelims result, citing few discrepancies in the exams and everything. So for the entire year, the paper was put on a stay, and in 2020, the mains for the prelims happened once the High Court removed the stay. So you can see after 2019 prelims, the exam for the mains happened in 2020, and luckily in 1 month, our interview happened. So it's completely left to the God in such a manner.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Next question is, Ashutosh Sharma asks, do paper publishing put oneself on the edge in interview stage?
Paper publication can help, but again, it's not mandatory or compulsory that you have to write paper. All these things are the added things, added qualifications, which added points which you can get. But if you haven't written any paper, or if you haven't done any moot, etc., it won't be that you'll get any negative marks for the same. Again, during interview, they basically, what happened in our Chhattisgarh judiciary was that they basically give you a paper in which you have to write your basic school qualifications, your college qualifications, your LLM degree if you have any, and all that. They won't, and they will ask you separate pages given for your extra co-curricular activities. You write only those things in which you are comfortable and in which you are able to answer. If any question comes, you will be able to answer properly on those questions. Now, these things are something, if you, and for example, any paper presentation comes up, any moot which you have done comes up, it's not that they will give you an extra point, but yes, they will show you that it will show you that you have worked hard at your college life and you have done many other things apart from normal study. So there's no negative, positive there can be, but it's not that there will be any negative marks if you haven't done any paper qualification, paper writing, or anything of those sorts.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Sonam Kumari asked which newspaper to rely on to cover most of the legal news.
The Hindu is best, I guess. A lot of UPSC aspirants also refer the Hindu. And apart from that, I used to read Dainik Bhaskar in my state. Dainik Bhaskar Hindi edition I used to read. Apart from that, you can refer to legal magazines which come like Pratyogita Darpan and Current Affairs. They're small magazines which are quite thin that you can refer. Those are also helpful.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, someone asked, will it be sensible to appear for judicial exams for more than one state?
Definitely, yes, you should go for that. There's one problem which comes is that if you are from Hindi speaking state, you can appear in Chhattisgarh, you can appear for MP, Rajasthan, Delhi, Haryana, all these things. People from Orissa, they are limited to, you cannot appear for states like Orissa or Maharashtra or Andhra Pradesh because there's a language barrier which comes up. So if you're from Hindi speaking state, you should definitely appear for all the states in which you are eligible for. And definitely it does help you to further understand, and it helps you to like as many exams as you give, the more you are the more confident you get it gets for you. So yes, it is advisable for you.
Ma'am, Akshar Pathak asks next question. Do we also need some strong connection in the system and clean fame without any complaints from bar and bench, etc.? Are these also the criteria to be elevated to the High Court or let's say Supreme Court?
Yes, strong connection I can't say, but yes, clean image has to be there, and clean image has to be everywhere. Like even if you want to get in a job, any corporate job also, your image has to be clean. So it is highly advised. It's mandatory that you should have a clean image over there. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Next question is Kiran Kiran Pratap Singh asked, in an interview, if a person does not know the answer of a question, how to overcome that at that moment? It becomes kind of weird.
If the I'm sorry, the question is that if you are not able, if you don't know any answer in the interview, then how to address the same, right?
Yes, ma'am. He asked if he does not know the answer.
So the answer is that you have to be honest about that. You should not in any way think that you'll bag anything in the interview panel and get away with it. No. If you don't know any answer, simply say, sir, I don't know, and just move to next question. This was said to me also by a lot of people that whenever you're interviewing, whenever you're giving an interview, do not just simply say anything whichever comes in your mind just because you don't know the answer. You simply say, I sir, I don't know, or I cannot remember, I cannot recall any of these phrases. Kindly politely say that and just move to next question. Do not say anything whichever comes in your mind. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Samyak then asks, does a postgraduate hold an edge over an undergraduate in the interview stage? And this is also my question.
Okay. Again, there won't be negative marks for the same. Positive हो सकता है. For example, I haven't done an LLM degree. I don't have LLM degree for myself. A lot of people who have my colleagues who have currently cleared the exams, a lot of people don't have LLM degree. However, if you have done LLM degree in, let's say, constitutional law, any other subject, and you are mentioning the same, you should be able to answer big questions from from that particular subject, because now the panel knows that you are an LLM graduate in, let's say, constitutional law. You should have a better and deeper understanding of the subject. So again, it's repeating the same thing. It won't be negative. There won't be any negative marks for the same कि आपने LLM नहीं किया तो उनके 10 marks काटे जाएंगे. No, positive हो सकता है.
Thank you, ma'am. Siddhantika asks, what were the types of questions asked by the interview panel? Yes.
So in my interview panel, what I was asked is that, which is a very important, as I mentioned, the GK in GK part, the GK from the state comes in huge number. So the place from where you belong, you should be well aware of your state. Let's say I come from Raipur, Chhattisgarh. A lot of questions were put to me from the Raipur as to the important places in Raipur, the important rivers flowing in our state, important temples and all that. So you should be well aware of the place from where you come, and also you have to have a basic understanding of the environment around you. One question which was asked from me is that nearby to my house there's a very important temple, so they can simply ask me what is that particular temple called. So all these questions come up. Then apart from GK part, they ask you current legal development. They ask me about media trial, what I think about media trial and everything. That was the legal current. That time it was current. It was that was Sushant Singh Rajput case, which they basically asked me. Uh, Apart from that, being a female, they ask female-centric questions from the law subjects. For example, they will ask, if you're female, they'll ask you about dowry death. They'll ask you about basic legal rights provided to female, or basic constitutional rights which are provided to female, etc., etc. And apart from this, basic legal questions they ask me. They ask me what the cat is. They ask me what is Article 14 of Constitution. All these things. So for an interview, it's not as much as I know. It's not that they ask you very big questions or very intelligent sort of questions. No, they ask you basic questions like what is theft, what is dacoity, what is the difference between theft and dacoity, what is the difference between robbery and dacoity, all those things. So these are basic questions, and these basic questions only, as much as I know, they are asked. GK is another important part which are going to be asked in an interview. So make sure that you have basic understanding and the current legal developments and current GK in your you have studied these things.
Ma'am, the next question is asked by Pahul Sont and Elisa Rawat. The question is same. Can a final year student appear for the judiciary exam?
I think it depends from the state to state. For example, in the Chhattisgarh judiciary, you cannot sit for judiciary unless you have a degree. So I was eligible to sit for the exam only after I have got a degree. That is, I have completed my graduation. I'm sorry, I don't know about other states, but I believe it's the same for MP also. So you have to check the eligibility criteria for that.
Ma'am, are you aware of the fact that our general category has 6 chances to appear in the exam? That means 6 chances in each state or in toto?
No, in each state, since judiciary exam is conducted by State Public Service Commission, so that will be counted in each state. UPSC is something which is conducted all over India by the Union Public Service Commission. So your chances of exams will be counted. UPSC ka it will be different, and for the judiciary exams, since it is state specific, the chances are also state specific.
Ma'am, next question is what is your views regarding higher judicial services versus PCSJ? Lower judicial. PCSJ. What is your views regarding higher judicial services and PCSJ?
Yes. So higher judiciary, that is the post which comes is that ADJ. Now, for the eligibility criteria for becoming an ADJ, it again differs from state to state. Mostly, as far as I remember, it's 7 years of law practice or 35 years of age, 32 to 35 years of age. Now, if a person, there are a lot of people who practices properly for 7 years until 32 years of their age, and after that they sit for the exam. The exam, again, I don't know the pattern as such. I haven't seen the syllabus as such, but as much as I know, it's more of the practical aspect. They ask you a lot of questions from the practical aspects from the litigation. So yes, if they find that if they want to become a judge after 7 years of practice, he or she should definitely start preparing for the same after 7 years of law practice. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Almost all questions are answered. If someone is left with the answer, you can unmute yourself and ask, ma'am. Is that fine with you, ma'am? Can
Yes,
I?
it's all right. Yes.
Okay. Participants, you can unmute now. If you have any question, you can ask to ma'am directly.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
you're audible.
Hello,
Yes,
ma'am, I'm
Inderpreet.
Shruti.
Hi, Shruti.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask that do you suggest applying for jobs in law firms and then side by side studying for judiciary?
It will be very tedious. So it will be. I'm not saying no because I myself was working in a law firm, and what I used to do was morning time. I used to take 1 to 2 hours for judiciary preparation, but then the entire day you get engaged in working in a law firm, so you hardly get time for proper time. You cannot give proper time for the judiciary preparation. What I would suggest is that till the time the notification isn't out or till the time the date of the exam isn't out, you can work and simultaneously take 2 to 3 hours to prepare for judiciary. But once the date has been published or the notification is out, I would suggest that then doing both working in a law firm and preparing for the judiciary will not be advisable. If you really want to go for judiciary, you have to take time out from the law firm and focus on the same, because we all know how tiring the law firms can get. They are tiring, in fact. So it will be very difficult for you. But yes,
Hello.
there
Okay,
are
ma'am. Thank
exceptions.
you.
If you can do so, then government got it. So,
Hello, ma'am.
yes. Hi.
Yeah, ma'am. My question is that in the interview stage, for how long the interview goes on, and what sort of questions are asked in the interview by the panel, and are they lenient or very harsh, or what sort of attitude do they adopt while interviewing the candidates, and what are the imperatives? What are the most essential things that they consider while they are asking questions, or are they examining your behavior? Are they seeing your CV more? What sort of is more important? Thank you.
So interview is all about the confidence and the persona of a person. It is said that via prelims exam, via mains exam, as you have already cleared prelims and mains exam, they already know that you are intelligent enough and you are aware of the provisions of the acts and everything well enough, because that is why you have cleared prelims and mains. In the interview part, they mainly see your persona, your personality, your confidence, your honesty, humility, all that. So make sure that you're confident enough, but at the same time you're very kind and very submissive. Like, you cannot be very boasty about all those things. So you have to keep that in your mind. You have to be very prim and proper, because you're sitting for such a huge job over here, career over there. And as I have already answered these questions as to what sort of questions they will be asking, I'll be again repeating the basic GK from your state, from the place where you belong, from your surrounding. If you worked previously anywhere, the questions from those part, you have to be very clear about these things. The current legal affairs, the current general affairs, you have to be very aware of. You have to be aware of the basic legal terms, the basic law. You have to be very much aware of. And again, repeating, during interviews, they don't focus much on your intelligence. They focus on your personality. That is why it's more of a personality test. Interviews are personality test sort of. So they focus on your personality, whether you are capable of getting this particular job or not. So you have to be according to that particular role you have to put up for.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, Anugya
Yes,
Tiwari asks. Yeah, wait, please wait. Ma'am, Anugya Tiwari asks, when it comes to starting the preparation, should we first deal with prelims and then mains, or do we have to focus on mains so that it is easy to crack both?
I should rather say that focus on prelims first, because what I did, I focus on the prelims only. And while you're preparing for prelims, you will eventually cover around 40% of the mains paper. Because let's say in MP, if you're preparing for Madhya Pradesh, there will be a lot of questions to be asked from there will be legal questions which they will ask. That you can easily cover during prelims time. So don't go for mains first. Go and prepare properly for the prelims, and accordingly, you'll do half of the mains task as well.
So, ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask a question regarding the approach towards revision. So should I revise, like if I'm preparing and I have done with one subject, so should I keep revising that subject along with adding on the new subjects, or should I just complete all the subjects first and then start revising one by
Uh,
one?
my strategy, which I followed was, I used to do timely revision every week. So as I had suggested previously, divide your subjects into major, minor, and medium acts, and every week you keep revising those subjects so that it's continuously in your mind. And another thing is that if you are actually very dedicated, if what you can do is that wherever you go, you keep recalling those sections. Let's say today you have completed Evidence Act. Now, even if you're eating, or even if you're going somewhere, even if you're swimming or else somewhere, you keep revising those sections. Let's say section 1 क्या कहता है, section 2 क्या कहता है, section 22 क्या कहता है. You keep doing that. Another thing which you can do is that whenever you come across any number, let's say you come across section number 54, you suddenly start recalling all those acts. Section 54 of Evidence Act, section 54 of TPA, section 54 of contract. So in this way, it will be much easier for sections to get registered in your mind. And revision, as you asked, it's extremely important. So weekly आप ये कर सकते हैं. This I had approached. This is what I made through as my preparation strategy. However, again repeating, the strategy differs from person to person. If you are not comfortable with this thing, you come across your own strategy. The only point is that you cannot recall or memorize any act in one go. You have to keep revising it again and again. So make sure that whatever strategy you follow, you have this in your mind that every week you have to cover one subject. Every week you have to revise any act, the previous act. And simply after 2 to 3 times, once you have done that, you feel yourself that चीजें अपने आप आपको याद होने लग जाएंगी.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Hello.
Okay, so my question is, what is your take on what should be the right time to start for judiciary preparation? Like, as you earlier mentioned in the session that you also intern at a lot of law firms, so it really gets a lot of exhaustive while preparing for judiciary, and also interning, mooting, and publishing, and also participating in other extracurricular activities. So how to manage that, and at what time did you properly started preparing for judiciary? And two more questions I have, that is relating to the translation part, like how should one go about it, and second one is the relevance of writing case laws, because remembering all the case laws and writing it down is like not, I do not think that it is like humanly possible in a way. So how did you approach that part?
Yes. So first, regarding the ideal time, as I said earlier, there cannot be any ideal time. For me, I started preparing after I graduated. So till 5 years of my law school, I used to focus completely on the extracurricular activities, and I used to basically enjoy my college life. That is what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, there were other classmates of mine who had started preparation from fourth year itself. What I am trying to say is that not everyone can decide what they want actually. So they keep on changing everything. If you're dedicated enough, if you're determined enough that you do want to go for judiciary, you can start that moment itself. Let's say in fourth year of law college, or in fifth year of law college. And if you have any doubts about the same, you just keep on grabbing the opportunities which come in your hand, and you go for the same. However, I would say that a minimum of a year of proper preparation is required for any exam to be cracked. And coming to the next question of yours, the translation part. I hope I'm clear, right?
Yes, ma'am, you are. Thank you so much.
Coming to the translation part, is that it becomes a bit difficult. Let's say for English medium students, the Hindi vocabulary is a difficult part. For Hindi medium students, the English vocabulary is a difficult part. So what we can do is that you can make a vocabulary copy, which I did. I used to write all the important English and Hindi words in that particular copy, and I used to revise it every day. So this you can do because vocabulary part is very important. Legal vocabulary I'm talking about, not normal vocabulary, legal vocabulary. And another thing is that you should buy a Diglot version of BearX. Now these Diglot BearX help you a lot because when you're reading any section, you can simultaneously see the Hindi part or the Hindi word which they say. And you should highlight the same and so that it gets registered in your mind. So that tomorrow when you're actually preparing for the translation part, it is easier for you to recall. When the time comes for the mains exam, when you have time for mains exam, by any default, like without any excuse, make sure that you give minimum of 2 hours for the translation part. Okay, because translation is a bit scoring part over here, and every day just keep on translating at least for 2 hours. So that your vocabulary is also very strong, and both for English as well as the Hindi part. And this is how you can go for translation thing. What was the third question, Samia?
Ma'am, it was the relevance of case laws in the mains examination.
Yes. So again, yes, it's very big task because I remember during my college days, we used to make up cases. Now that thing cannot be applied in your mains exam. So again, what I would suggest is that you have to be very selective about your study. We are all not robots that we can remember each and everything. So what we can do is that we are very smart, like we do a smart study and a selective study. Even though we are writing one case law or two case law, we have to be very sure that whatever we are writing, that's 100% correct. You should avoid any wrong case law. So, आप थोड़ा पढ़े, but जो भी आप पढ़ाई कर रहे हो, that should be 100% correct. And it's very wrong when people study hundreds of cases, but then ultimately in the exam, they're not able to recall that. So it's completely waste of time. Be smart and be selective about your approach.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. And one last thing that I wanted to ask is, like in the fourth year, is it safer to opt for constitutional law as well as corporate laws? So to be at a safer side.
Yes, definitely. Yes. It's not maths and biology which we used to think about in our 12th exams. So it's completely okay if you opt for both corporate as well as constitution because it will in a way help you keep your doors open for corporate field as well as for the judiciary thing. But one thing which I would like to say over here is that even if let's say you are going for a corporate job, it's not necessary that you have to have corporate law as your honors. You can have constitution as your honors and can still sit for corporate law corporate laws interviews or that. So as long as you are aware of the subject and as long as you're able to answer the subject's question. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I will unmute one by one and then they can ask.
Yes.
Shahila Begum. Shahila, can you hear me? Dipali Padhi. Excuse me if I pronounce it wrong.
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yes, Dipali.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm a first year student. So basically, I have a doubt. Like, if suppose I want to start my preparation from third year itself, so do I need to keep a track first of all in the legal development or the GK part, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, ma'am. So apart from that, what all I can start up with the preparation? Like, because within the 2 years, we will be like surrounded with some basic subjects, not every subject.
Yes.
So what will be the strategy for that, ma'am?
As in your first year, I would rather say that as soon as you provide, like as let's say today you are studying for TOEFs. I guess in first year we all study tort, and in second year there might be Contracts Act which will be introduced to you. What you can do is that you can have a thorough understanding of the basic law points. It's not only related to the syllabus of your college, but you can refer basic books. Let's say the Avatar Singh for Contract Act. You can go with that. And so that when the exam time comes, when you actually start preparing for the judiciary, you have your basic understanding very much clear. So this you can do from the beginning, and this will not be only useful for your judiciary part, but for any student, for any profession, which wherever you go, the basic understanding of any subject will be helpful for you. It will definitely pay you off. So yeah.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Ma'am, can you just repeat once the book name, if you don't mind?
Yes, there are different publications for different subjects. For contracts, you can refer Avatar Singh. For Takwani is there for, I guess, Evidence Act, and for TPA, you can refer those books. I'm sorry, I don't remember books as such, but there are basic books which are available in any law book depot, and even your library, in your university library. So, yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Anubala. Anubala,
Good
please.
evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening.
Ma'am, can you please tell me with the number of pages or the length of question that we have to write during our mains exam?
I'm sorry, I cannot say exactly how many pages you have to write. It's just that if the same is for 10 marks or 5 marks, whatever number of pages you write, you have to make sure that you are writing enough points over there. It's not that just because it's of 5 marks, you're writing for 3 pages or 4 pages. No. It has to be of an average number of pages, but make sure that whatever you are writing, you are putting all the important ingredients over there. The important points have to be there, and accordingly, paper is like just like as a college, like just like in college, if some 10 marks question come, accordingly with our own wisdom and everything, we accordingly proceed with the question. Similar should be for the mains exam also. The only point is there for college, we take it a bit lightly as to we can what I used to do is that I used to invent random cases or fancy cases. I used to mention the paper, and just because I have to fill the number of pages, I used to write anything. Don't do that for the mains exam. Be very selective. Be like whatever you write, you should know that it's 100% correct. Whatever you're writing. So yes, that's important.
Okay, ma'am. And one more thing, ma'am, what is the importance of case laws in the answer of mains writing? That how many maximum case we can refer in one question?
As I mentioned earlier, it's case laws are important, especially landmark cases. You should substantiate your answers with landmark cases, but you should keep in mind that just because you have to write cases, case laws requires more memory power and everything. So just because you have to write, don't write any wrong case law. Make sure that whatever you are writing, it's 100% authentic and it's completely substantiating your answer. So for every, let's say for every important section, you have one case law in your hand, at least one case law, important, and that too for important sections. For example, in Constitution, we have Article 14. For Article 21, we have tons of landmark cases, landmark judgments, which we have. It's not advisable that you write each and every case law for Article 21. No, you mention only important case laws which you can memorize and which you can write. So that's more important. As if whatever you're studying, you're writing that properly.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Anu. Raghuvans Mali.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening.
Ma'am, actually, I want to ask that it won't be a hectic task for the final year students to focus on the final year academics as well, prepare for the judiciary.
It can be, yes, it can be. But as much as I can say is that for college exams, we study only a month before, if I'm not wrong. Remaining time, you can utilize your time for judiciary. And I'm not saying that you have to continuously study for 12 hours. No. Take out a minimum of an hour or minimum of 2 hours for judiciary, and it will be more than sufficient. I'm saying more than sufficient if you're in 5th year. So that once you are graduate and once the time for the notification comes, then you are giving your 100% for the judiciary. But till the time you are in your 5th year or till the time you are working somewhere, just 2 hours is more than sufficient. And in those 2 hours, you should be able to just keep in touch with the subject. आप रोज कुछ ना कुछ act पढ़ लीजिए. Every day you take out any act, any section, you read it, so that when the time comes, when you are ready to give 100%, something is there in your mind, and it doesn't feel very fresh to you. You will understand completely that this is something which I have read earlier. So you can do like this.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, and one more question I want to add, that does 1 year GK is sufficient for the judiciary?
Yes,
Last
it's
1 year current?
sufficient. It's sufficient, yes. And that too very, I mean, static GK can come from any year. Static GK means the basic GK, the history,
Yes.
the geography, all those things. That can be something which can come from anywhere. But current affairs of 1 year is more than sufficient.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Raghuvans. Sudhanshu Upadhyay.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, my question is, can we simultaneously prepare for judiciary while preparing for JAG examination, or is this two examination completely different from each other? Like we have to prepare,
These two
we have to.
examinations are different, but it's not that you cannot prepare for the same. JAG examinations is not something in which you have to focus very much. I myself have attempted for JAG examinations, and I reached the interview stage when I had appeared. One thing which I realized during JAG exam was that it's not there's no syllabus for the same. For JAG exams, they don't give you कि constitution पूछा जाएगा या फिर evidence पूछा जाएगा. No, it's completely the present scenario which they see. So you should prepare for judiciary, and for the JAG exams, there's one book. I am sorry, I cannot remember the name. It's available in Amazon. So you can order that particular book from the Amazon, and everything is there for the JAG exams. And 100% sure, the preparation won't hamper the preparation for JAG, won't hamper your preparation for judiciary. So yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, here I would like to intimate that we are also organizing our next webinar on JAG only.
Okay.
On 8 participants can do register. Next question from Pahul Sean. Pahul. Okay. Akash Vishwakarma.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, yes.
Ma'am, a so common question. Ma'am, how's the life of a judicial officer, especially after being selected as a judicial officer? The differences you feel, or the different experiences in life you feel after being selected as a judicial officer?
I'm sorry over here because I have my posting is yet not notified. So I'm still waiting for my posting. But yes, a lot of people say that once you are into the job, there might be questions and there might be a bit of anxiety in the sense that you have to get a very restricted life and all that. I will be more able to share this with you once I have my posting and once I actually join the job. But till now I have no experience as such. So yeah, a bit early the question is.
Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am. All the best.
Pahul Sean. Pahul, please unmute yourself. Okay. Sakshi.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening.
Ma'am, my question is, can we get enrolled as an advocate before preparing for judicial exams?
Yes, definitely. You should. In fact, every person, as soon as he clears his graduation, should get enrolled himself to BCA and should attempt for AIB exam and everything, because your experience starts getting counted from the day you become a member of the Bar Council. So yes, you should.
Next question from Kirti.
Hello.
Yes, Kirti.
Am I audible? Good evening,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes.
Hi, good evening, Kirti.
Ma'am, I was asking, as you have said, you have given a JAG interview, right?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, will you please elaborate a bit what all were the tasks and what all were the things that had happened, and why did you opt out yourself from that JAG
With that
position?
interview? No, I'll be very honest over here. I didn't opt. They opted me out. So I didn't clear the interview stage over there. Ayush just said that there will be another session for you guys for where they will tell you about the JAG and everything. But I'll give you a brief of what happened in the JAG interview. So again, it's two stages. Once you have to clear the basic preliminary stage where there are tons of people and only 20 to 28 is selected for the 20 people around are selected for the next round. So, and for in the next round, there will be a lot of physical activities which they make you to do. They will make you jump from 10 feet pole and do rope climbing and all that. So there's this book, Kriti, which I cannot remember. It's available in Amazon. You can refer that book, and that book has everything over there. Uh, Apart from that, as I have mentioned earlier, there's no prerequisite qualification, nor there's any syllabus for the same. The only thing is that even if you go there without studying anything, it will be on your paper and it will be all on spot. It will be done everything on spot. The questions will be asked on spot. The questions will be more of a logical reasoning and all that. There will be group discussion which will happen, everything. So that book will help you out. That is available on Amazon. I'll just tell you after some time. Let me check. And the session you can attend, which Ayush was just sharing with you. So there will be a bit more clear.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Amol Thorar. Amol, you are not audible.
Hello,
Yeah,
am I
yeah.
audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So I'm currently in second year. So is it advisable to pursue judicial internships as to gain some practical exposure of court?
Yes, yes, you can. However, judicial internships, you should definitely go for it. And it's better if you do in your third year or fourth year, because I haven't got an opportunity to be a judicial clerk over there. But as I have heard from my other friends and other colleagues who have done, they do say that the judges make them do a lot of research work, and they're very strict about that. So if you are in your third year or fourth year, when you have studied more barracks, more legal subjects, it will be a bit more helpful. But yes, if you're getting an opportunity at second year, then well and good, you should go for that. Don't say no to this.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Dipali Paddy.
Yeah. Once more, good evening, ma'am. I have a small doubt. It's a very general question. Like, as this is a very long journey, then how to keep motivate, ma'am? Like, how you are supposed to be very much motivated throughout the journey? Because it is a journey like we will come across many kind of distractions, or it may be whatever that will take out the concentration. So, how to manage this all things simultaneously while studying?
Yes, and honestly, this is a huge part. I mean, well, like for competitive exams, studying constitute, I guess, only 40%, and rest 60% is how you keep yourself motivated and determined. So for me, friends help me a lot. Like I had a close set of friends who definitely helped me to keep me motivated and everything. Not motivated as such, but yes, whenever I used to feel down and low, I used to hang out with them. So that was one thing which you can do. Every person can have their own strategy, sort of. But yes, you have to be determined, because honestly, the exam takes a minimum of a year, because again repeating, you have to clear prelims, mains, and interview. And God forbid you have cleared prelims but you are stuck on mains. So there can be a lot of heartbreak and sadness which can come up to you, but you have to keep you have to keep yourself pushing towards it, because in the end, actually, I'm saying you, in the end, if when you clear the exam, all those anxiety, all those hard work which you did will seem to be very, very, very less as compared to the happiness which you feel after clearing the exam. So just keep this in your mind. Just keep imagining yourself as a judicial officer and keep working towards it. So
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we don't have any questions. Participants, if you have
Ma'am,
questions, please.
there is a question in the chat box. I think he is unable to unmute himself. Pahul has asked that how many maximum seats do you suggest we should focus, maximum states do you suggest we should focus on? And he has second question that can you please suggest a book for Hindi to English translation for legal language that you referred to?
Okay. So how many states we should focus? There cannot be any definitive. There cannot be any definitive question answer to that. I mean, if you are from Hindi-speaking state, you should definitely focus on all the Hindi-speaking states like Rajasthan, MP, CG. But mostly for me, I focused only on Chhattisgarh because Chhattisgarh is from where I belong to. I didn't even focus to MP. So again, it should be your decision only as to in which state you would like to go. And this should not happen that, let's say, you gave prelims for Rajasthan and you clear the prelims. But then after prelims, you decide, nahi, I don't want to go for Rajasthan. I don't want to become a judge in Rajasthan. This should not happen. Just pinpoint the states in which you'll be comfortable working as a judicial officer and then prepare for the same. Don't go randomly just because ऐसे कहीं ऐसे random मत जाओ कि राजस्थान का जज नहीं बनना है बट आपने राजस्थान का पेपर दे दिया आपने क्लियर कर लिया then you are sad कि अरे I don't want to come to Rajasthan. No, that should not happen. So focus on your state, your home state, and if you want, then nearby neighboring states also you can do.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to call Preetha to give vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ayush. Good evening, all. I am Pritha, and on behalf of Food Welfare Society, I am here to present the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I would like to thank our speaker, Ms. Ashwarya Dhawan, for enlightening us with her knowledge. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts. I am pretty sure that the valuable insight that ma'am gave us will definitely help us in our future. Once again, I would like to thank ma'am for taking out time from a busy schedule and enlightening us with the knowledge. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would also like to thank our president, Mr. Abhinav Srivastava, for encouraging us to organize this webinar session. I want to thank the members of the organizing committee, namely Siddhantika, Asma, Muskan, Nishtha, Shreya, Sonali, Anamta, and Ayush, who really worked hard to make this event successful. Lastly, I would like to thank all the participants present here for their active participation and for making this webinar a success. Thank you. The certificates will be mailed within 10 days to all the participants who have filled the feedback form for this event. Can we end this webinar, Ayush?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Participants, there is a small announcement. If you are unable to see the feedback form link in the chat box, you can send a mail to ayush@hood.org.in with a screenshot of the webinar so that we can issue a certificate. Thank you.